That's how it comes, which is normal. What we're gonna do is put it together. All right, well there it is in the rack. I went ahead and took all the trash off of it. So we're gonna assemble it, but let's walk around in here and have a little look. So this is a Rocky Mountain Vertex. My son has outgrown his current bike and Christmas is here, so thought this would be a good present. I had a hard time, he wanted certain colors, but I didn't want him to know I was getting the bike, so I would show him pictures of bikes like they were for me and say, hey, what do you think of that color? And this is what he picked. So yeah. Now this has a Sun Tour shock. A lot of, this is not a low end bike, so it's a little bit more geared towards performance. It's a quality bike. The Sun Tour shock is an air shock. It's the XCR Low, so LO 24, because this is a 24-inch wheel bike. My son is 9. So yeah, if you're thinking about getting a bike for your kid, he's already on like the beginner 20-inch wheel bike. I mean, it should be pretty obvious by looking at them that he's outgrowing the bike. I think the general rule of thumb is that what was it? Like if their inseam is like somewhere between 20 and 24 inches, like that's kind of the industry standard. But the thing is, when he's pedaling the bike that he currently has and his knees are rising up above the handlebars, all right, it's time for another bike. I mean, I'm assuming you've already raised the seat. And there are a lot of options out there, but I want him to have a higher end bike as he graduates from one level to the next. So it's not a Fox shock, you don't need anything like that. Some kids might, depending on their family lifestyle and where they live and such. They might really be into riding, and you might go for a higher end bike, and they do make them, but this is more than enough for most kids, including mine. The Sun Tour shock is an air shock, so there's no spring in there, so it's not a 9-pound shock. You can adjust its sag and travel and get it set up properly for the weight of the rider. It does have a lockout, so you can lock it out, and it's an 80 millimeter travel shock, sort of. It has a plug inside of it down here that takes up some of the travel. So out of the box, it's a 63 millimeter travel fork, and you can disassemble it and take that travel limiter out, and then you can get 80 millimeters of travel. So just beware of that. If you do go to disassemble it, don't just take it apart. You need to bleed the air out of it, let the pressure off, and then basically you take these nuts off and separate the shock. And there's a cartridge in there and O-rings, there's all kinds of crap in there, but it's not that big of a job. And I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to build it for Christmas. So anyway, walking around the bike, what do we got? We got well, it does have hydraulic disc brakes, so that's a plus. They're 2-piston calipers. I don't remember the brand. I thought they were Shimano. Yeah, some Shimano brand. And it doesn't really matter which particular model. Moving back here, we got their Advent micro shift setup is what they call it. It's just a Dior derailleur. But so the micro shift stuff, like the Advent series and all that, it doesn't, I thought it actually said Advent on it when it was Advent. I'm a little confused. Well, that's a Dior derailleur. But anyway, regardless, wait a minute, this is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Interesting. Okay. All right, the reason why I'm confused is because the literature that I read on their marketing was for a 9-speed cassette that had microshift, Advent microshift. This is not Advent microshift, and that is, I counted 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's 10. Yeah, so that's even an upgrade. That's even better. Yay. Sweet. All right, so this particular Rocky Mountain, the one that I got, which by the way I ordered from Sun & Ski, it was $636 after tax. I paid a little extra for shipping because I wanted it to get here like quicker. I think it's gonna be in $700 and some dollars. If you go to Rocky Mountain's website, it's listed at $909, but just order it from Sun & Ski or Bikes Online or something. So these are tubeless ready rims. Let's see. Yeah, they have a tube in them. These are not tubeless tires. So the rims are tubeless ready. So take these junk tires off. Change. It's got a tube in it. So take this off. Get you a Stan's no tubes kit. Put the valve stem in there. Put your sealant in there and a good tire. And now you're tubeless. You'll shave. Oh man, these are, what are these? These are wire bead. Yeah, this is a wire bead tire, 30 TPI casing. You get a good tire and go tubeless, you'll save 2.5 pounds off this bike, just like that. So anyway, that's kind of a walk around. Over here in the box that it comes with, you get you know, generic flat pedals, quick release skewer. These are quick release wheels, and so they're not, you know, bolted on with an axle and nut. So let's throw it together real quick and get this finished. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is reposition the stem here, and because it's turned inward for shipping. I'll loosen that. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's loose. Alright, that's close enough. Okay, so the headset is a ball bearing headset and it is too tight. I can feel it. It is grabbing a lot. So we're gonna end up adjusting that. The last bike I built came with this fancy flip-flop screwdriver. Looks like something for a toy kit. I'm gonna pop this cap off. All right. So if you're turning this, I mean, it's grabby. I can feel the detent in every roller, and you can even see it in the video. Look, watch the fork as I move it. It drops into each segmented detent. That's too tight. I don't like it. So you're gonna make sure your stem is loose, and then loosen the Allen key up top. That's a little better. Now, it's gonna have some tension on it because it's like preloaded. You do run the risk of loosening it too much. All right, that feels good there. Now I'm gonna tell you, I can't show you because it's in the rack, but here's how you know when your headset is loose. When the bike is assembled, it's a fully assembled bike, you got your handlebars on, you're gonna squeeze the front brake and you're gonna push the bike back and forth with the front brake squeezed, and put your fingers around here at the bottom of the head tube. And just kind of feel, is there play? Is it tick, 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 tick? If it's ticking, it's got play. So you're gonna loosen the clamp on the stem, the two stem clamps, and then you're gonna tighten the crown nut down just a little bit until that play goes away. That's the sweet spot. You don't want it to be so tight that it's grabbing. It doesn't steer right, it'll be sticky steering, it'll wear out your bearings, it's wrong. And if there's play, it's too loose. So you just ride it and hit the brake. You know, and always, as a rider, you should always be aware of the tension on your headset. These bearings seat, they wear in. So, you know, just part of bike maintenance. All right, so now we're gonna put our handlebars on. Actually, I'm gonna put this plug back because, you know, it's kind of decorative and I don't want to lose it. All right, moving along. All right, so we're gonna put the handlebars on. Now, it's already assembled. All of our cables and everything are run. These are hydraulic brakes. So, you know, make sure you don't have it all twisted around. When it's set up, and there is sort of an alignment grid on here. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of, yeah, you can see it. You know, it kind of gives you something to look at for a reference point on, you know, when it's centered. And you can fine tune it when it's on the ground with the rider. And so we're gonna put the cap back on. And snug it down. And, you know, like I said, this is a Christmas present, so all the fine tuning and whatnot will happen on Christmas Day. But we're gonna, so I always look across the top of the handlebars and I rock them forward just a little bit, you know, just like one click past level. That's what I always do. That's just me. All right, so you might have watched the the bike video I did where I had the cheap Chinese fat tire bike. Okay, that's a super long video. It basically turned into a movie, but all this was wrong. I had to take everything off the handlebars, reroute everything, and sew it all back up. It was absolute garbage. But that was a cheap Chinese fat tire bike. This is a quality bike. There are no issues. It's just take it out of the box and put it together. But your front brake cable, or in this case tube, should be oriented like this. Just a straight shot down the fork, and then your rear derailleur and rear brake will go around the front of the top tube, not capturing the front cable, and then it will run down the top tube and go to the places where it belongs. All right, if that is not what you have, then you have, it may be a workable setup, but it's not ideal. It's not the ideal setup. Well, especially if this is the bike, like you've got the same bike that I've got, this is exactly how it should be, no different. So, anyway, we got this snugged up. We're just, well, I'm gonna tighten it because I know on Christmas Day, the first thing will happen is riding, and then when things slow down, we'll start setting it up for them. All right, so there we go. All right, take our little plastic off the grips, sort of. Oh my gosh, and they were gripping. All right, there we go. Perfect. All right, so the rear brake is installed. Try to avoid squeezing the brake. Man, these feel so good, my gosh. Those are great. All right, so try to avoid, now there is a spacer in the caliper. That's what the red thing is, because there's no tire. So they don't want you to squeeze the axle, you know, in shipping or whatever. Avoid squeezing the lever without the disc in here, because you'll set a problem up. These can close and not want to come back open. You'll have to pry them open. So if that happens, get a flat blade screwdriver in there and pry them back open. All right, so now what we're going to do is, well, we're going to remove this piece of crap here. Kind of like the do not remove label on your mattress. So we removed it. Now what we're gonna do is put the front wheel in. All right, so I went in and flipped the bike over in the rack. We're gonna drop the wheel in. Pay attention to your rotor, slide it into the caliper. You should be looking at the rotor. Get it started, and then drop your, oh, there's a plastic cap on here, I didn't see it. All right, there we go, we're in. Here's our skewer. Now, when you're doing this, it's a zip tie on here. When you're doing this, well, I assume that if you have a bike rack, then you have enough experience to know that when you put a tire on the bike, you should do it on the ground and put some weight on the handlebars to make sure that the hub axle of the front wheel was fully seated in the dropout on the fork. I'm doing it on the rack, but I'm aware of that. So pop this in here. So how does the spring go? Okay, the little spring right here. The narrow cone of the spring goes on the skewer first, in case you don't know. That's the direction that it goes. With the skewer in the open position, you will turn the nut all the way down until it stops. Now, once you've done that, you can't close it, it's too tight. So from there, start backing it off until you can close it about 2/3. And from there, when you tighten it down, it should be right. You don't want it to be too tight. You can break a skewer. The clamping pressure that holds the wheel on the dropouts on the fork is extreme, even at just a snug rotation. Additionally, it's chamfered in here. It's like a groove. So even if it comes loose, you're gonna know it's loose before it can actually fall off. All right, so there we go. Now, I'm going to swing this bike around in the bike rack so that it's properly oriented, and then we're gonna put air in the tires. Our tires. If you're just a parent and you don't actually ride a bike and you just decided to get your kid a fancier bike than what they sell at Walmart, well, then you're probably not gonna be familiar with the fact that these are different kinds of tubes. So if you look at the valve here, this is called a Presta valve. It's not like the valve on your car. So you may not have a way to air it up. At the bike shop, and maybe even Walmart now, I don't know, you can buy a pump that will accommodate Presta valves, or you can buy a little adapter like this and it threads over the Presta valve, and now you can air it up with your conventional air compressor or whatever you have. So these tires are rated at 40 psi. So I never run tires at their max, and almost all mountain bikes I just run at 30. We're gonna put 30 psi in here, call it a day. And you're airing it up. Make sure that you pay attention as you're adding air, and it won't really be a problem on these tires because they're wire bead and it's a more premium bike and rim. But you should always be in the habit of making sure that the tire is not sort of like off-centered on the rim, where maybe it's dropped down and you have a greater amount of material down here, because as you're adding air, if there's an opening or a weak spot, kind of like a mouse trying to get in your house, that tube's going to come flying out. And it will go boom. All right, there we are. Press the valve, you screw the stem back in, and then the little nut on the bottom of the stem, well, because there's air in the tube now, there's going to be a gap there. So go ahead and run it down finger tight, because it's going to come up off the rim. All right, we'll air the back one up and move on. All right, so moving along, we're going to put the pedals on, and then we'll talk about the shock. The pedals are labeled on the ends usually, and these are left and right. They're 15 millimeters. 15 millimeters goes here. I always put a little grease on the threads. And then this one is left. So there we go. Next. All right, air in the tires, pedals are on the shock. All right, so the shock, the air, so this is an air shock. You add air, you'll take this cap off. There's a cap here, it's just like this on yours. Unscrew it, and that's how you put air in it. Now, most mountain bike, this, by the way, this is the lockout, so you can lock it out so it doesn't work. And you know, there are scenarios where you might want that, where like you're riding on pavement or something, you don't want the suspension absorbing your pedaling power. So anyway, we're gonna leave it open anyway. So most of your mountain bike shocks you'll need a pump that's special for the shocks. And you know what's special about the pump? Well, you know, it's a small piston, so you can actually pump it, and it doesn't move a large volume of air, but you can hit higher pressures, you know, up over 150, 200 psi if you need to. On this particular shock, according to the manual, it's pre-charged with, and here it is a chart, and on this chart are a bunch of different shocks. And our shock is the XCR, which is right here. XCR 24 inch, because it's 24-inch wheel. And then if you look down here, it'll say rider weight. Well, my son weighs like 72 pounds or something like that. I mean, these are all hashed out. There is no adjustment for various weights. There's just a max pressure of 100 and a minimum pressure of 50. That's the way I read that. Though for a 55-pound rider, it's got a minimum pressure of 40. So, yeah, so here's the way you read this. You're gonna have a minimum pressure of, say, 40 for a 55-pound rider. All your hashed out marks are gonna be at 50 pounds, because that's what's here, basically. And that doesn't even make sense. Why do they have weights in all of the other categories for these other shocks, but here it's just all hashed out? So here's the deal. You just forget all these weights, how much your kid weighs. You got 100 PSI maximum air pressure you can put in, and 40 minimum. So 40 to 100. You know, it's like, you know, cooking, just salt to taste. So that's what you're gonna do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the gauge on here. I'm gonna see what's actually in there. Now this will accommodate just a regular conventional car tire sort of setup. And what we've got is we had 48 pounds. My goodness, what in the, well, that says 75. 25. All right. $53, $52, $50. It's very finicky. It's a very small volume of air in the shock, so a little bit goes a long ways. If you have a hand pump because you are a cyclist and you need it, and so you have one, I would recommend doing it with that, because that way you lose less air pressure bleed off when you unscrew it. These are kind of deep. But anyway, so there it is. That's the bike. Set up our reflector. I'll tighten it down. So there's not going to be no riding it today. Oh, you know what? We got to go through the gears. Let's do that. See how it shifts. So it is currently in second gear. There's first, it went, drop, 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 drop. Ooh. All right. It's a little finicky. So this ferrule right here shortens or lengthens your cable. As we drop down, our cable is basically wanting to be shorter. If you want to go up to the next gear, and you should never shift gears, at least in the tension direction, without pedaling. What it's doing, and you might be able to hear it clicking, it kind of thinks it's close to wanting to go up. So we're going to shorten the cable. We're going to loosen this. I'm just going to do like 3 clicks. Oh. Nope, it was wanting to go the other direction. All right, there we go. We went back up. So I'm going to loosen it. It should drop. Yep. Another loosen. Drop. Yep. One more. Yep. And the last one. These are always the catchy ones. Hey, it went. All right. Very cool. Let's climb again. 1, 2, 3. Yep. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, we did it. Man, right out of the box. Really nothing. So as you can see, single chainring up front, which a lot of bikes are going to that and have been for a while, and it really is the way to go. Especially now with our different hub spacings, we can stack more in a cassette back here. We can, you get a 12-speed cassette for the rear and a single chainring up front. Get rid of the other shifter, get rid of the other derailleur. Go more simple, and I mean, it's just the way to go. So I really like to see that. That's sweet. So that's it. That's the bike. I can't really do a review per se because we don't have no history with it. There's not going to be any riding. But this is the Rocky Mountain Vertex Jr 24-inch wheel bike, and I think it's awesome. It's an aluminum frame, got an air shock. Now, I'm not a fan of Suntour by any means, but it's adequate for this bike, and it is an air shock. So, yeah, that's a big plus. Tubeless rims. All you got to do is get good wheels, or I mean tires, sorry. Get some good tubeless tires, and a tubeless kit, you know, to convert it to tubeless, because this stem belongs to the tube, the inner tube that's inside. So you're going to get a tubeless kit, some slime, good tire. You're going to shave 2 pounds off the bike at least, and yeah, it's awesome. Good Shimano brakes, man. They feel great. They are just, I mean, they are just buttery, man. Love it. Quiet hub, no clickies. And the plastic thing on the inside here, I always take them off of my bikes, but in case you don't know, the purpose of that is if the limit ever gets off, or for some reason your chain drives itself off the top gear, well, it's going to drop down in there and get hung up in spokes, and it's just kind of, it's yucky. So the plastic plate is just to keep the chain out of the spokes. But it's not a problem. I would leave it. It's a kid's bike. What an awesome bike. It's a really nice bike. If you do care to know, and you're still watching this video, I can't remember the seat angle. I think the seat tube angle was 70. Gosh, I wish I had that pulled up. The head tube angle was 67 degrees. So it's not your super slack 65, you know, kind of setup, but it's a good geometry for, I mean, it's a 24-inch wheel bike. It's going to be a quick handling little bike. It's going to feel great. You're not going to know it because you're the adult. You're not going to be riding it, but yeah, let me see here. The gosh, I thought I had specs here. What a bummer. Oh well, I don't know what they are. It doesn't really matter. It's a kid's bike. I could look them up, but I mean, who really cares? Nice grips too. All right, thanks for watching. You should get one. It's a great bike.